Welcome to my apiary. With that sanding out of the way, I need to attach this fourth side. And in my design, there's a little bit of a difficulty, and I kind of knew it would be a difficulty. The fact that these corners don't intersect means I can't, I can't do what they call register one on the other. So this, when I glued this in, this ended up splaying out on both boxes. And that'll be pulled in by the bottom, but there is also nothing that will make the base center on this assembly. So I'm going to try to make sure this one, when I glue it on, is going to sit where I want it. So what I've done is I've clamped the end pieces to just bring them together enough, very little, but enough so that this side piece will bottom out on those and thereby register on that and be, vertical to the rest of the box. And I think that's going to work for this. What happens with this when I put that base on, that'll be another matter. But I'm going to get this glued on here now, and it'll have to sit probably till tomorrow, maybe this evening, but likely tomorrow before I touch it again. All right. A little bit of squeeze out inside is not a big deal. A little bit of squeeze out here is not a big deal because I can clean that up after the fact. So I'm just going to go for it here. I can't glue the side to this because that's not where it goes. Like I said, I've squeezed these in order to locate this vertically on there. I want to put glue on both surfaces. That's because I'm not using a ton of glue, and I believe when I glue two surfaces, that gives me way better glue adhesion, because obviously there's already glue on that surface. Just a little bit around the corner. Okay. So I'm just going to put that on there, stand it up. I'm going to locate that here at the bottom, and by eye is good enough here because I have my corner pieces to go in, and that looks good. I'm going to take a lot of clamps because I want to pull it in this way. I think those two clamps are going to be enough because it gives it tension against here and the glue joint. Okay, so that one is set. This one should go in like manner. Yeah. Don't want to get glue on my table saw, but it's a convenient place to work. Go the other way with this one. Put some glue there and then smear it on the edge with my finger. Don't need much. All I want is to make sure that the glue sits on that surface well. I find that if you just glue one side, if you were to take that joint apart, you'd notice that there's not glue all the way down the side. Okay, we'll just line that up by eye. Get another my little clamp. Squeeze that a bit. These are great little clamps. I wish I owned many, many more of them. Word is they stopped making them though. They've replaced them with something else, and the community is, the opinion of the community is that what they replaced them with isn't nearly as nice. Probably another situation where the bean counters got in charge of the company and they're just going to destroy it. Okay. Now these are going to have to sit and dry. When we last spoke, I was sanding, and I spent my day sanding. It went well. The pieces feel really nice, very, very smooth and glossy. Not quite glossy, but very smooth. I didn't sand the tops because my witness marks are on the tops. I didn't want to lose those. And then I went ahead and glued the fourth side onto the top. I then pre-fit the base. The base is not glued on yet, but I wanted to fit that and be sure that it was going to fit and I could glue it on when it came time. Another change that I didn't film, I cut some very small strips here and glued them to the end panel. And why I did that was you can see that the end panel and the side panel, they don't intersect, so they won't register on each other. And whereas they're glued on the top here, there's nothing to locate them on the bottom. And putting that little strip in there has made a big difference to keeping these side panels in the proper orientation. So I think my next move is going to be to glue this bottom on. I have to pull that off. It's going to spring. It's under tension because when I glued this first panel on, it wasn't quite straight up and down. Okay, so that has to be pulled together when I glue it together. I don't anticipate any major problems in that regard. There was a little bit of squeeze out in here that I have removed, and yeah, I think I'm ready to glue those on. And this one as well. This one's still under pressure, but not as much. This one could use a little splay pressure from the inside for the end panels. I'll glue it, and perhaps I can clamp it to the base to keep those pushed out. I want to keep those pushed out so there's no gap between the base and that, because the base, you think it's important to not have a gap here at the top, but the base, you're going to see that gap really easy. That has to fit nicely. So I think I'll go ahead and do that. Oh, the last then, once that glue is set, the last thing is I need to put my edge pieces on this is not the right one, but on the top. And those need to line up with the witness marks and the grain patterns and everything. That's going to be a fairly stressful glue up because I need to get it on there. And I'll get one for an example. So I need to get it on there and get it lined up really nice. And once you line it up, especially where these these grain patterns are. That's not even the right piece, but you can see that where the straight grain is, it pretty well disappears. The gap disappears. So yeah, I need to get that on just right. I'm thinking if I'm going to error proud, and then I can sand that nice and flat and smooth. And once I'm done that, then I route detail all the way around the top. So, but we'll do these bottoms, and then we'll see what happens. All right, I guess there's nothing really to do but to get some glue on this and press that base on much like it was. Now, my little filler piece here, the base doesn't glue to that, so I'm no doubt going to get copious amounts of glue on it, but it's not a glue surface per se. It's the bottom and just the lower edge of the outside that's going to have contact. I'm going to glue the bottom here. This is working pretty good with my finger. And then I'll put some glue in the rabbit. I glue those together, but they're not going to really... Well, they do intersect a little with up at the top, so I could get a dot of glue in there. They would eventually stick together. We'll just do that. Every piece I mill, every piece I glue together, the stress increases because I have more invested in, you know, if I break something, if I glue something wrong, if I split out a piece of wood, then it's going to take me just that much longer, more work to recover. I can rebuild any one of these parts or the whole thing, but I don't want to do that. It takes so much time and effort to do that. Okay, so that's glued along the top edge. I just want to get a little bit on the base here. I have to be careful. I get glue on my fingers, and then I'll get glue on the non-gluing surfaces. I don't want a bunch of squeeze out here. It's an area that would be difficult to clean. The trouble with making small projects like this. All right, so now, yeah, I'm going to do that the other way because I don't want to set that down and miss and get this glue on this surface here. So I have to tip it over. Hopefully I can. I'm going to put this clamp on here, pull the sides together to make assembly easier. Okay, that It's just slipped in there perfectly. Take these clamps off. And now I need to make sure that the bottom, the side pieces are fitting into the bottom nicely. You see how there's a bit of a gap there? So you pull that out. There's a gap here. I can put a clamp on this. So I'll turn that over. Make sure it's nicely seated. The squeeze out inside is acceptable. And I'll put this clamp here, catching the little additional piece I put in there and the edge of the base. There, pulled that in really nice. Okay. I love these little clamps, especially working a small project. It's very, very nice. That one doesn't want to. I have a hard time with that one. Not sure why. If this was a spreader clamp, these small ones are not convertible. If it was a spreader clamp, I'd put it across inside. We'll cut a wood strip for there. What are we looking at? We're looking at 9, almost 9 inches. I'll rip that so I have one for each box. I must say, since my recent experiences with my eye, I take these things more seriously. And it's not conscious either. I just kind of do. So just try to wedge this in. It's a bit too long still. I'll just cut it off a little bit. You can only cut it so many times until you cut it too short. So I think this is good. A bit of a bow in it there. There we go. Bob's your uncle. Nice and tight there. Nice and tight there. A little tiny bit of squeeze out. And I'll fix that up later. The side pieces, because they're supported by this little bit that I added, the side pieces are fitting really nicely too. Okay, well, set that one aside. See, this is, as the assembly progresses, you can do less and less work every day. One little thing and it's, okay, let the glue dry, you know. So I'll just get organized here. Okay, so I think that was a good idea. Try and get a little bit of glue in there. Come on. It's hooked. This, actually I have a glue bot. It's a glue dispenser. And it has a nozzle that has fingers that run along a panel. Really kind of make edge gluing like this a little bit easier. I'll use my finger because it's buried somewhere. I don't think it's made for a panel this small, so I don't think it would work anyway. Okay, so that's pretty good. A little bit less squeeze out if I brush it down with my finger. Okay, push that aside. But I do rather do that with my right finger. Left is not as dexterous. Dexterous? Is that the term? Dexterous? Must be dexterous. Dexterous must be fine. The term ambidextrous. You have dexterity. If you're a high degree of dexterousness. Stuff that fills my head while I'm gluing projects together. I didn't have any and now I got too much. Okay. Okay, what did I do? I put the little clamp on there. Put a little clamp on here. I got glue run down this corner. That's okay because that corner is behind the corner piece. Okay, let's see if it fits. Hopefully it fits. This one was a bit tighter. Not going in there quite yet. Oh, look what I did. Oh, I didn't get glue on it. I think I can pull that together in the middle. Glue up's stressful too, because you only have so much time. This glue actually tacks pretty fast. There we go. All right, she's in there. Okay, let's check. There's a gap there. Gap there. Should be able to get our wedge in here. Let's give it a pull with that little clamp first. Okay. Have to pull it and then I can put the wedge in. Got that one on there real nice, and then I'm struggling. I can't clamp on the side because that kind of defeats the purpose. So I have to clamp on that edge, but it's not wanting to sit in there really nice. To hold that down while I do this end. Okay, what's that look like now? That's tight there. That's cut quite tight there. I didn't get a very good pull on this side. My hands were busy. Okay. But did I tighten this one at the expense of this one? I think I did. So that's tight, and that's not. That's where this wedge comes in. I wish I had a spreader that was that small. But I don't want to break it. Yeah, it's not working. This is probably the smallest spreader I have. Might be small enough. We'll soon see. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the stuff right there. Don't break anything. That's pretty good. I think this could still use a little tug here to tighten that up. It's tight on that end. Well, I think it's tight on that end. This corner doesn't seem to be quite tight. Okay. Right, I think that's what it is, regardless. So I'm so glad that spreader worked in there. Okay. Now with this box, because I've got a more rudimentary spreader here, I can actually turn that over and work on the top side. So do I have a chance? The question is, do I have a chance to put the side pieces on this top? I don't think I had better try to put both of them on at once. You can kind of see that that kerf mostly disappears there. So I think I will do that. Try to put that on there. And the challenge is I can get it on there just perfectly. The challenge is keeping it from shifting around after the fact. I'm gonna go for it here. Let's see what happens. Of course, I've chosen a front and back, and I've just started to glue the front piece. And I don't want a ton of squeeze out on the bottom of this. Squeeze out on the top I can deal with. So there, I've tried to keep the glue off the bottom for the most part. I can wipe a small bit of glue on the mating surface. It's mostly to wet the wood. You know, the wood just soaks up that moisture really fast. I know you can't see this, but so you can see I've just basically wet the wood with the glue. And now I can try this. There are methods you can use to keep your piece from sliding around. One that I'm aware of I've never used, and one that I have used I don't want to use here. I guess I could. It's kind of too late though. So the one I have used is you drive a small nail. You could probably do it with 2, maybe 3. You drive a little tiny nail into this piece here and just cut the head off it, barely protruding from this piece. And then when you stick this one on, you can clamp it. That little nail holds the piece steady. I think I'm good here. I'm gonna push it down a little. I'm deviating from my witness mark, but that's because here I don't have much of a problem. The grain is fairly straight, but then the grain heads this way. So because I've taken a kerf out of there, the angle is not quite right. So I'm just pushing it down so that that curve kind of matches up. The straight grain here is fine with that because it's fairly straight and there's nothing much to match up. Okay, what are we gonna do here? We're gonna get this clamped without making it slide around. If it slides proud, I'm okay. I don't want it to slide sideways. I don't want it to slide down. I want to get at least 3 clamps on it. It's a thin piece of wood, so it needs more clamping area. So that is just a hair proud, hardly at all. I'm going to take these off of there. Yeah, this one, I knew I shouldn't have done that one like that, because there's a gap right here I need to deal with, like so. Again, just a hair proud. Perfect. I can sand that after the fact and it'll be beautiful. Because again, you know, I can even, one thing I could do, I don't think I'll do, but one thing you can do is raise that planer up. You could run this whole thing through the planer to make it all nice and smooth and flat. I don't want to do that because there's no guarantees that this surface is you know, parallel with the planer bed. But you can sand that, and the thickness, you know, I always use 3/4 inch material and all that, but the thickness is not important here, as long as I don't go down more than 1/2 inch, because that's where my rabbits and dados start. This is looking really good. I'm very happy with the way that happened here. Okay, it's going to take a long time. If I had more clamps, I could do another one, but I don't. So that has to set. That'll be set enough to unclamp probably in, I don't know, I'm going to say about 4 hours. But I don't want to unclamp it too soon, because that is probably one of the most aesthetic glue ups that I have to do on this box. Can't rush it. So that means that's all for now. We're coming down to it with these boxes. So I've got this walnut box all glued up, and I just used my coarse sanding block here to sand this glue joint, and there was quite a bit of squeeze out, but that's okay. That sanding block took care of that. So now you can see how this glue joint mostly disappears here. It's a little bit more apparent here, and I'm not sure if my detail that I'm going to route in here will intersect that or not. If it will, then it should hide it even more. Before I can route that detail, however, I have a little bit of cleanup to do here, because these end pieces that I glued on were not cut to size. I actually ripped those off, and then I cut this to length, so I have to trim that now. Problem is, I can't just run one end on the fence to trim it, because both ends need to be trimmed. So I don't know the length from here to here to trim it. So I'm going to use my fancy new fence here, and then I can just line it up by eye. I can set it in here, and I can line this up here just until that touches the tooth, and then I can run that through and sneak it over until the saw just barely touches this surface here. Flip it around, kind of do the same thing. So I'm going to do that right now. Now, this is not the greatest blade for this. This is a rip blade, and I should have a high tooth count crosscut blade for there. I'm going to chance this because I'm going to be routing a detail, so if there's any chip out on the top, that'll be taken away with the detail. Hopefully it doesn't chip out right here. I'm really enjoying this new fence. Yeah, then move it all. That's perfect. And it blends together quite well there on this seam and this one. Doing something like that, you sure get a good idea how square something is or is not. That's pretty square, but it's not perfect. Okay, besides routing the detail, I also need to install these corner pieces here. So those have to be cut perfectly. So they're each going to be cut individually to fit each individual corner, and then they'll be glued in there. This is really quite easy to sneak up on a cut. So we're looking at about 4 3/4. We're looking at a little more than 4 3/4. So I can cut these rough size. I'll measure each one. Make sure I don't have any major outliers. Okay. So 4 3/4 it is. I've thrown the calibration of my guide here out by using this as a fine adjustment. So I'm just going to reset that. right, that's bang on right there. I'm going from the edge of the tooth, not from just the blade. Yep, needs to back up just a hair. All right. Now I should be able to set this at 4 3/4, and I've set it at 4 7/8. And that should be 4 7/8 on the nose. Okay. I want this part on the front corners. It's just a nice figure in that wood. So we'll do this. Now let's see. I wonder if that's safe. I think that'll be safe. I'm trying to keep the chip out controlled. Okay. Brick fence is safely out of the way, so my offcut won't get trapped anywhere. I don't need the blade quite that high. Okay. Let's cut that, and then we'll realize it's too short. Well, that says it's longer than it needs to be, so we'll just do it. This one first. Makes a pretty nice cut. fits really well. Fits really well. Okay. That one fits really nicely too. Take that one, and then I can look at the relationship between where that fence is set and this next piece, which is actually pretty darn good. I think I'll just cut that next one, just like that. What about the next one? I think the next one is about as close as I'll get it too. Something I need to be careful with here is the fact that this is a metal fence, aluminum. Even though it's not ferrous, I know from other people's bad experience that if you hit that blade with that fence, it will trip the emergency brake, being that it's conductive. So we don't want to do that. Now I've got a little bit of squeeze out in here, which I don't like. I'm not sure I can do much about it, but I'll try. Just my little sharp chisel here. Don't want to make a mess, but character, right? That's the kind of thing that shows you it's handmade. So there's a little bit of tool marks there now. All right. Those are for the front. These two are for the back. The back I've decided is this, because this piece of walnut is quite light, and I think the other piece of walnut is much prettier. So, what do you think? That looks pretty nice, I think. And these are not structural, these are decorative. So I can just apply a little glue here and kind of set them in place. I don't think they even need to be clamped. I may want to. I think I'm going to clamp them though. What I'll do is I will install 2 on the end together and just clamp them lightly this direction. Okay, here we go. Okay, what I don't want is squeeze out. Problem is, there's no glue surface on the very corner. So I need to make sure I still get glue on the very edge here. I'm going to put that on there with my finger. Almost just to wet the wood. This is actually the back one, so I should be doing that on the other side. If I did this again, I'd make these corners differently. I don't like joinery that doesn't really kind of lock together. Too many variables. Okay, I think this is going to work. Stick that right on there. Oh yeah, that's nice. Look at that. Guess I need to make notes on this because there are things I do differently second time. I think I'd make this end longer because you see how much it's sticking over here. Not very much. This is equal, like it sticks over this side equally. So I'd have to make both a little longer. Again, don't need much glue. There's pretty good glue. I just need this to stay on there. I'll put it on like this. I decided to turn it. There's a couple of mill marks here. I'd rather those be on the end if they're not. If I can't get rid of them. A little bit of glue there. All right. I don't think this needs to be clamped, to be honest. That glue has a high tack. I think in just a minute I'll turn that over and do the other two. A little squeeze out here. Not too happy about that. He was able to take care of it there with that chisel. Okay, well, let's see if I can put these two on without the bottom two falling off. I get pretty nervous around glue up. Glue up is literally where it all comes together. You can do such a terrible job if things go poorly on glue up. Glue got away on me there. I know it's hard to see little parts and things. Little parts and big fingers. Okay. Let's all hope for no squeeze out. To push it in there, it's tight. I think that's in there properly. A little tiny bit of squeeze out, I'll clean up. Okay, that's fitting well. I'll do this last corner. Tell you, it's hard to spread just a tiny bit of glue, especially when you got such a big finger. Hope these hold on there forever. I shouldn't need much glue on each surface if I'm gluing both surfaces, because I can feel it. The glue on that wood gets really tacky really fast. Okay. Okay. See, isn't that pretty? That's a nice figure on that wood. Again, a couple of mill marks. I'll put that on the end. That doesn't show in the front. Okay. I think that's good. Seated on this side. Seated there. All right. I think I'm good to go. What do you think? One thing left. Route that detail. Well, 3 things left. Route that detail, sand the top, and then put a finish on it.